Welcome to Page to Screen, the podcast where Nikki and Christina discuss books that were turned into movies and films that were adapted from books. As always, we do remind you that spoilers lay ahead. Now, we invite you to decide with us the age-old question, which is better, the book or the movie?
In the jungle you must wait till the dice read 5 or 8. But you don't have to wait that long for this podcast. Welcome to season 2 of Page to Screen. Oh, we did it.
We did it. Season. Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah, we've got fun and games.
We do. Games for days.
Joining, as always, is my favorite jungle explorer, Christina.
Oh, thank you for the introduction. How are you doing, Nikki?
I am feeling slightly foolish about this episode.
Well, we did introduce the subject matter for this episode in the last episode, which begins with the 1981 fantasy children's picture book, Jumanji, that Nikki and I both, I think, assumed was a book of at least 50 to 100 pages. We were not expecting a picture book.
Yeah, no, I thought maybe like a Nancy Drew, a Hardy Boys.
Like the Egypt Game or Goosebumps, like that kind of book.
Yeah, like thin enough where it's like, okay, it's not going to take me more than a day to read this. Right. But thick enough where I'm not embarrassed to take it somewhere.
Yeah, I don't want to sit down at Starbucks and open up Jumanji and have people see me taking notes about it.
It is a legit picture book for very small children, of which Christina and I have none.
So in the last episode, at the end of it, we're talking about, oh yeah, I've never read it before. We didn't know.
I believe I also said I cannot wait to read the book. I should have said I cannot wait to gaze at photos while I read 2 sentences.
Right.
Maybe we should have, like, in hindsight, maybe we should have looked it up before we announced that as our book.
Oh, you mean do our job?
Oh, yeah. You know, the research part of the podcast.
Yeah. And, I thought about it, too, because most of the picks that we've done are pretty far in advance so that we know our schedules and everything.
Yeah.
And we picked Jumanji, like, just off the top of your head. Like, you mentioned it, and I said, yeah, sure, I'm game. And in the back of my head, I thought, oh, I hope it's not too long.
Yeah. Nope. Nope, it wasn't. It honestly took maybe 15 minutes tops.
Yeah.
It's really only, I guess if you count the pictures, like 20 pages?
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw this, but I bought the book, and it's cool, but at the beginning, there's actually, like, instructions on how to listen to this being read. And the part about that made me laugh at first was that when you and I discovered how short Jumanji is, I saw that on Audible they actually have it, and there was a lot of reviews complaining that it was a full credit but only like 10 minutes of actual listening time, which is very funny because that means other people must have bought it without realizing how short it is. But the book has this link where it's Robin Williams reading it.
No.
Yes.
Oh, I would cry.
So I read this, but then I also listened to Robin Williams reading it, and I miss him. It was so nice, and he is so much fun. He does full voices for the mom and the little girl, so he's got like the female voices. He does a really good job reading it, and then they also have this kind of like jazzy music in the background. Ooh. They have some, and they do like it's almost like a Wondery podcast-esque sound effects and things. So when they go to roll the dice, they have this cute little like sound that they use, and he's so alive in it. and it just kind of kills me.
Oh. I did, you know what's funny? I don't know a lot of like children's book authors by name, like, because I don't have a child. But when I first looked at the cover art for Jumanji, I was like, oh, this looks like the Polar Express.
I know, I did too.
And then when we were researching, I was like, oh, because it's the guy who did the Polar Express.
You know, it's funny because the Polar Express look, it looks exactly like his artwork. And
Yeah.
then even the monkeys, the CGI monkeys in Jumanji the movie look
Yeah.
a lot like the drawings in his book.
Yeah, it was, I mean, that's like, there's really not a lot to talk about the book because there really isn't a lot in the book, I guess. But
yeah, it's really
also,
short.
Yeah.
It's just the two kids, they find the game, they play the game, and crazy stuff shows up in their house, so they kind of panic to finish it. They finish it, everything goes away, and then at the end there's like a cliffhanger where you see two kids with a box, and that's it. That's the book.
Yeah. I mean, can we talk? The ending had me cracking up, though, because it's that. So it's Judy and Peter, who are the same names as the kids in the Jumanji movie, are like brother and sister, and they find this game out in the woods because I guess that's what kids do, find games in the woods. But like their parents left them alone like all day because they go outside and play, but they left them alone to go to the opera, and then they're coming back with their friends, and one of their parents' friends at the end of the book comes into the room to serve them dinner, which I also thought was like very weird. But she's talking about her two kids, and she's like, oh, you guys are so good at that puzzle stuff. My two boys, they never pay attention to any instructions. And the two kids are looking out the window as those two boys are picking up that game. And I was like, oh, you're in for a world of hurt, lady. I was like, that's a bold choice to end on.
One thing I like about books like this, it's like the same idea with Alice in Wonderland or Peter Pan, Wizard of Oz, where this could just be in their heads, where they're just imagining all of it happening, or there's even an element where the mom thinks that they're napping, so they could be like asleep and having, I guess, a shared fever dream or something. But I like when it's sort of ambiguous as to whether or not it's actually happening, if this is just children and their wonderful imagination, or if the game truly is cursed. Like, what do you think? Would you think it's one or the other?
I think it's a hard thing to answer because a child is going to believe it's the real deal. You know what I mean? I honestly, though, reading it, I would want it to be real. Like, I want there to be this crazy game that makes all this stuff happen.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing for me with the book is that I think it's it's another, like Alice in Wonderland and like Peter Pan, it's a lesson book, you know?
Right.
Where it's kind of like, you know, pay attention. It's educational and fun. I mean, do you see it as more in their heads or more realistic?
Yeah, I do. I see it as more, it's their imagination is running away with them.
Yeah. I mean, none of the things that pop out of the book actually interact with them.
Right.
They get close, but they don't interact.
Well, some of the writing I think is really smart. It's pretty well written, and like it's so engaging the way things are written, where it adds that sense of danger to what's happening, where I think it's when the lion shows up and it's described as chasing after the boy and it's a whiskers length behind him.
Yeah.
And I loved that because you could feel the whiskers touching like the back of your leg and then understand how close it is, but it also gives it gravity to what is there. So it's not just they see it sitting in the corner, they actually sense them close to them.
Yeah, there's a sense of urgency with
Yes.
each, like, and with each passing page, it gets more and more. Like, there's lava that comes out of their fireplace.
Yeah.
That was actually a part of the book where I was just like, I'm sorry, hold on. There are two kids in a room and you have lava coming out, and then they're like, oh, and then it hit the water, and I was like, what water? I completely forgot about the storm 2 pages earlier. I'm like, there's only 15 pages into this book. How did I forget one thing that happened 2 pages ago?
Listen, Nikki, we did this to make sure that it's on your reading level. I know it's challenging to remember what occurred in the 8 pages.
Listen, I'm just doing it for the book it, okay? I'm going to go get myself a personal pizza. I'll see you later.
Wait a minute. I didn't even think. Does this count towards the books I've read this year?
Yes, it does.
You sure?
100%. I put it on my Goodreads. This counts.
If I did it, you can do it.
Yeah. Listen, if it is listed on Goodreads as a book and I can add it to my list, that's when I'm like, okay, then it's definitely a book that can be added to my book list.
I feel like this is the thing, though, where when you die and you go up to the pearly gates and they're wondering if you're good or not, they're like, so in 2021, did you really list Jumanji as your reading goal for the year? Yeah, kind of bending the rules there.
Listen. I did not add the Thanksgiving short story from last year
to my if I did.
to my list. So the way I see it, if it is actually a book, like a book with like more than 2 pages, you can add it. Picture books count. You still had to read something.
I did. I did.
It wasn't like it was a seek and find.
It's not a coloring book.
No. Oh my goodness.
It was also funny looking at the pictures where the kids in the book look like the kids in the movie. Like the little girl has the long braids, and then the little boy looks very similar just in his likeness.
Yeah, there's a lot of like key elements that really carried over from the book to the movie, which I enjoyed. Like even some of the stuff that happens to them, like the lion being the first thing that comes out, and the mosquitoes.
Yeah.
I found that to be interesting, that those were elements that they carried over. Because once we start talking about the movie, a lot of stuff changed. It's very different. Yeah, you know what? Overall, I liked the book.
I feel like, because I did like it, it was super cute, but I would have loved it when I was a kid. I think there's not like many little kid picture books that I really remember. I feel like they got me started on like books pretty young, but I would have enjoyed this.
Yeah, I think my family was very big into the golden books.
Yeah, I had golden books too.
Yeah, and especially all the Disney ones.
Same.
So I think that's really where it was at for me. I don't think I did a lot of picture books. Anyways, what I did find interesting about the book is that it follows that pattern of children's books where you really don't see any parents.
I like that.
And when we get to the movie, I think it's interesting because the parents play a key role in the movie, but there are no parents in the book.
No.
Yeah, I mean, if I had a kid, I would read them this book.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't think of anything else to talk about this book. It was only like...
That's about it.
Literally, it took no time at all to read it. And it was... I will say this, though. If you are going to check this out, rent it, if you will, check it out from the library or whatever. I did it for my Kindle, and because it's a picture book and the way you have to read it, the Kindle can't support it. So you have to, I had to read it on my phone, and I had to turn the phone sideways to read it because the way the pages are, they're very big.
They are very big, yes.
But yeah, the artwork's
It's
really
a picture
fun.
book.
Yeah, it is a picture book. I should. Womp womp. But now for what the people really want.
Yes, so Jumanji was adapted into a motion picture. Came out in 1995. It is directed by Joe Johnston. Joe Johnston is the same guy who did stuff like The Rocketeer, Captain America: First Avenger.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah. And he's definitely like a special effects guy.
Yeah.
So that's heavy in the film. It is starring, of course, Robin Williams, R.A.P. Also co-starring Kirsten Dunst, David Alan Grier, Jonathan Hyde, Bebe Neuwirth, and I would have bet my entire life Helen Hunt, who is not in this film. Bonnie Hunt is.
Yeah.
Different Hunt.
Oh, and the kid who was the voice of Chip in Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, and I did not know that. I did not know that he was the voice of Chip. Which is very cute.
Until doing research for this, I did not realize that Patricia Clarkson plays the mother.
I know.
And
yeah,
like that threw me for a loop. And then to find out that Laura Bell Bundy, who was Elle Woods on Broadway in Legally Blonde, plays young Sarah, and I was like, who else? I'm sorry, who else was in this movie? Like, it is a phenomenal cast.
It is, yeah.
It's so good.
My favorite out of the cast is I want to say Jonathan Hyde Pierce, but Jonathan Hyde. Jonathan Hyde is my favorite. They do the really fun thing, kind of echoing Peter Pan, where Peter Pan typically, when you see it performed, and they've brought this over in some of the movies too, where the dad also plays Captain Hook. So Jonathan Hyde plays the dad of the Robin Williams character, but then he also plays the villainous Van Pelt, which I think is super fun.
It's such a good name.
Yeah.
How I want to read you this very dramatic IMDb synopsis for this movie.
Okay.
Because I was like trying to think, I was like, how do you sum up Jumanji really quickly? And I was like,
right.
I know, IMDb. They know how to do it. Someone wrote this description that I was like, I'm sorry, what? So, a dramatic rereading of an IMDb description. Jumanji, one of the world's most unique and dangerous board games ever, falls into the hands of the curious teen Alan Parrish in 1969. Mysterious and magical, the game sends the unsuspecting boy in the lush, savage forests of a mythical realm. Nearly 3 decades later, the game releases him before the odd eyes of the young orphaned siblings, Judy and Peter Shepard. Now the wild and incessant beat of the jungle's tribal drums is calling for the now adult Alan and the other hesitant players, as the one who rolls the dice must never leave undone what the roll has started.
Jesus.
Has anyone ever escaped from the game and Jumanji's formidable foes? Yeah, remember at the beginning of the movie when those 2 kids buried it? I think they escaped. IMDb. Dude.
That's like written as if it's a David Lynch movie.
It is. It really, you read that and it's like, who dies? How many of them? Are we in the jungle the whole time?
That's so funny.
Actually, it's not a jungle. They say it's a forest, a savage forest.
That's like, that description is really dark, but like the funny thing about the movie is it is kind of dark. There's moments where it almost feels like a horror movie, like when it's the 2 kids in modern times, so in the 90s, and it's set up where it built up for a jump scare and it feels like a horror movie.
Yeah. What's interesting about that is that that's what Roger Ebert said about Jumanji. Is that he actually he thought it should have been rated PG-13. Mm-hmm. He thought kids would be too frightened. He also says that it's ghostly messages that sends him back into the jungle.
Man, he doesn't watch everything.
I don't think he does. I really don't think he watches enough.
No.
Because he also says, like, in his review, he says, the basic notion of the film, two kids have lots of scary adventures with Robin Williams, must have sounded good on paper. And I was like, what?
That sounds terrifying.
It doesn't sound good on paper. It doesn't sound good in your review. I don't. And honestly, after reading the trivia and finding out they didn't even want Robin Williams at the start,
Right.
it should read, two kids have lots of scary adventures with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
See, I can imagine, and I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I actually don't hate it.
I don't hate it either. I would still watch it. I would still watch it. But I think Robin Williams brought something to this performance that I don't think Tom Hanks could. What Robin Williams, I think, really brings to a lot of his performances is he has tapped into the childlike wonder of everything.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel fake.
Right.
Like when you watch, I don't want to say that because when you watch Tom Hanks in Big, he has that like, that childlike aura to him, but it feels more like preteeny.
Right.
Whereas
right.
Robin Williams really knows how to play a kid. And when you're looking at a film where he spends all of his time with two kids, I think you kind of need that.
Right. I will say though that Jumanji was a movie that I really loved when I was a kid, and I watched it quite a lot. But I had not rewatched it in probably 13 years.
Yeah.
Until I rewatched it for this, and I don't think it holds up very well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would say there's still some special effects that I think work. But I get it. I think the storyline is it gets a little muddled. Especially at the end.
Yes, it definitely gets muddled. The CGI, especially with the monkeys, is pretty rough.
Yeah.
And there is like a weird energy around it. Like certain things just don't, I don't know. It just doesn't feel quite as right to me.
Yeah. But overall it was still fun to watch. Because I too hadn't seen it in
100%. Still fun.
I hadn't seen it in years. Like I can't tell you the last time I actually saw this movie, but it's been so long that my first thought was, oh my God, this house. I was like, I was trying to pinpoint what the price would have been in 1995 for this kind of house. It's 3 stories with a fully, like the whole top floor is like basically full attic space. A huge walk-in closet on the second floor. A bunch of bedrooms. You have a full formal living room, a dining room, a kitchen. It probably has at least 4.5 bath, a whole backyard, and a balcony.
And BB Newirth is an unmarried woman with 2 kids that she adopted.
In my notes, I wrote down, what is her job that allows her to afford this house? And then 2 seconds later, I wrote down, why did BB Newirth buy this great house in a shanty town? Because there's, like, I would love this house. There's that built-in library, and they left all their books.
Yeah. And, like, they left all their books, but who went in and casually picked up, like, a third of the books from each shelf and then just threw them up in the air? Why would you do that?
I bet it was troubled teens. Honestly,
the house was vandalized by troubled teens.
Honestly, the thing that surprises me the most about that is that so this house has been sitting abandoned for an extremely long time, apparently, according to everybody in town. But his parents didn't die until 1991, and this movie came out in 1995. So that's not an extremely long time. That's like, 4 years that the house has been kind of abandoned? Maybe 3 years that the house has been abandoned? And with that sort of logic, the house shouldn't look nearly as run down as it does unless they left the house earlier. And then on top of that, everyone in town thinks that his dad chopped him up into little pieces and hid him in the walls. Don't you think more teens would have been there partying or like using Ouija boards and messing up the house? Like there should have been melted candle wax everywhere. Like I call upon the spirit of Alan Parrish. Like
And speaking of, when Robin Williams comes back and he is trying to figure out what happened to his parents, and he asks that fucking guy who is one of the greatest villains of all time, he asks the guy if he's seen his parents, and the guy's like, yeah, I've seen them around over on Adams Street.
What
and
a
then we
jerk.
get to Adams Street, and it's a fucking graveyard.
Yeah,
Who does that? That sick freak.
This is his Joker origin story. This is where it starts for him. Because and he's very kind of like calm about it, just looking at it. And I think the other thing that really makes me mad is that if he had only been there 4 years earlier, you know? Like,
If you went to some city and you were looking for some sort of uncle of yours that you're trying to get in touch with, and you ask somebody and they say, yeah, he's over on Adams Street, and you get to Adams Street and it's a cemetery, what would you do?
go back and beat the crap out of the person who told me that on the street. I'm telling you.
I would too.
That's why it's the origin story. This is where a villain is born. But also,
That guy tells me Adams Street, I leave, an hour later he turns to see me and I've got a baseball bat in my hand.
but also, like, wouldn't you also be like, okay, well, Adam Street is a big street, so
Yeah.
what's the house number? And then make that guy feel like a real jerk. Then he has to be like, well, it's not a house. Well, if they don't live in a house, what is it? An apartment? Well, you see, okay, tell me where my parents are. Like, how often do you ask for directions? And so, like, you're like, hey, can you give me the address of that restaurant? Sure. It's on Hicks Street. Oh, wait. That's like a big street. Well, what's the address? Hicks Street. What's the address? Like, I'm not just going to go to Adams and just be like, well, okay, I guess we just drive till we find my parents.
If I have been working at the same employer for years now, if you ask me to list every street that I take to get to work every single day, I cannot tell you the names of the streets. I could probably guess most. I don't know all of the names. I'm not good with directions.
Yeah.
You can't just tell me some street and expect I'll make my way there.
No, what you need to say is, like, you turn left at the McDonald's, but it's the McDonald's that has an actual big sign, not a small sign. Like, I need actual, like, physical descriptions of the area. I'll find my way. I'll always find my way. Like, I think that's the thing that made me mad the most, is that him and his dog are living in that shoe factory, and he just doesn't say anything. Like, oh, by the way, they're dead. That's why I get to live in your shoe factory.
So that guy's like homeless, right?
I think he's homeless, yeah. That's what I mean.
He looks good. He looks good.
Well, yeah, and he's well enough to give clothes to him. So he's probably pretty high up in the hierarchy of homeless people.
If you were dating and you ask the guy, so, where do you live? And he's like, I live in the abandoned shoe factory down the street. Would you be like, that's okay? Or,
Christina, let's get real. If you ask that guy where he lives, he's just going to say Adams Street.
okay, checks out.
Yes, Adams Street. I know it well.
Could be an apartment, an abandoned shoe factory, or a graveyard. I'm not sure.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I have some problems with the ages in this movie.
Yeah.
Robin Williams is... I think he's only like 10 years older than Bonnie Hunt, but he looks like he's 25 years older than Bonnie Hunt. And then What's his face? The shoe factory guy appears to be the exact same age.
Oh,
30
David
years
Allen
later.
Greer? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, as an adult, I think it's hard to suspend disbelief about David Allen Greer being older in the second half than he was in the first half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a kid, that did not faze me.
Yeah, I didn't even clock it as a kid. I was just like, oh, wow. He made the first sneaker. Oh, goodness.
Are there any parts of the movie that really scare you?
I don't like the spiders. I've
Spiders?
never liked the spiders. And, even as an adult looking at them, and I'm like, those are so fake and so blah. I'm definitely like, no, I don't want those anywhere near me. Like, I cannot. The sounds they make, I just cannot. Mm-mm. What, were you scared of anything?
Yeah, when I was a kid, when he gets sucked into the game, that really disturbed
Oh,
me.
yeah.
And then there's two moments that I didn't like as a kid, and they both still were very unsettling for me now as an adult. One of them being when the boy gets stuck in the car, and it's like all crashing in on him. Oh,
Yeah.
that's not cool. And then the next one is when they melt into the floor.
I blame Jumanji for making me think quicksand was something I would encounter at least once before I hit 40. You know how much quicksand I've seen? Zip. It was everywhere. Cartoons, TV shows, movies. Pack of lies. Fed me a pack of lies.
Is it even really a thing, or is it just a Hollywood thing?
No, I think quicksand is like a legitimate thing, but I also don't think it's like quick. Like,
So
it's faster than walking, but slower than an airplane.
so it's steady pace sand.
Yeah, I think if you move around, right? Is that how that works? Like if you move around, it sucks you in, but if you stay still, it doesn't? I don't know. You know what? Honestly, all my information is coming from TV and movies, and they lied. So who knows? Who knows? Let's do a quick
don't
Google
know.
search. Is quicksand real?
So it looks like it kind of is, but not really.
Wait, we have a report coming up from the editor of the podcast, Mr. Thompson. Would you like to tell us about quicksand?
I'm pretty sure it's real.
I think it's more like, when you
But
go to the...
There are cavities, I thought, is underneath there's cavities, and so it sinks because there's trapped air that gets broken up by whatever's on top. That was my understanding.
Oh, see...
I could be wrong.
No one our age is going to know what quicksand really is because all we know is TV and movie quicksand. We don't know legit quicksand because no one's ever seen it.
Okay, so I'm reading about quicksand. Quicksand is a thing, but not the way it is in movies, and you cannot die in quicksand.
You can't die in
Because-
quicksand?
No, because of the density of the sand versus our bodies, you would end up kind of floating. So it would definitely be a nuisance, but you wouldn't float. And it's even saying, this sounds like, it sounds ridiculous, that if you were to get stuck in quicksand, Nicole, so I hope you're listening.
I am paying attention
how you
because
survive,
it could
okay?
happen.
You lean back and you will end up floating. So, quicksand picks your ass up like Daenerys in Game of Thrones or a rock star, and you will just kind of float.
Hi, I'm going to crowd surf across this quicksand. Don't mind me. I am actually mad about this right now. I spent so much time worried about quicksand for no reason.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But it is scary in the movie because I think the part that scares me isn't just that he's slipping into the floor, but that it then goes solid.
Yeah.
And he's stuck there.
You know what bothers me about that? And it's a continuity thing for me. Because Bonnie Hunt wraps her arms around him, right, to hold him. But when BB Newirth comes into the house and sees him, she's seeing, like, the waistband of his pants to his feet. Wouldn't we also see part of Bonnie Hunt's arms?
Yes.
Thank you.
There should be both of them
Thank you.
peeking out.
Yes. Okay. Because that wasn't something that, once again, as a child, I would have even cared about. Because it's the gag that's funny, the feet. That's the funny thing. But as an adult watching it, I was like, well, physically, we should be able to see.
You know, one thing that's not a continuity thing, more of just a storytelling character development problem that I have is Robin Williams' character is weird because when he's talking to Bonnie Hunt and they're both explaining the difficulties that they've had since they played the game, and so she's dealt with people questioning her sanity, and he's obviously been in Jumanji this whole time, that it almost feels like he has had months to think about this and accept what happened to him when he just got here, guys. He hasn't had time to process anything.
Yeah. He should still be running around like a small child.
Yeah.
I think that's something that does bother me is like when we first see him and he's running around the house looking for his family, that's like the Alan Parrish that should be the whole movie. He's still a young boy, just he's grown up.
Yeah.
And instead all of a sudden he is an adult. And it's like, oh, okay.
It's also annoying that the Bonnie Hunt character doesn't really get much of a background.
Yeah. Yeah, because it sounds like they were friends and they hung out a lot, and we really don't get any.
No.
Yeah, because I would love to know what really happened to her in the amount of time that he was gone. Like, we understand what happened to Robin Williams. He grew up in a jungle. Like, we have the funny gag where he walks into the bathroom and he's like, no more banana leaves, you know?
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's funny because you're like, because that's how you're wiping your butt. But we see Bonnie Hunt's character, you know, young Sarah, as like we see her running down the street, you know, being chased by bats, and then all of a sudden she's a psychic.
Yeah.
What happened? She's a psychic who's in therapy. Where I would love for her to explain, like, because she has that moment where she's like, no one believed me that I saw a little boy get pulled into a board game. I would love to know a little bit more about, like, well, what was it like growing up? Like, what was your life after that? What made you become a psychic?
Even before then, because you get Parrish's whole backstory with being bullied and his parents, but she just shows up at the house.
Yeah. And we know that the Parrishes are uber rich.
Yeah.
Super rich. Like, they want to send him to that boarding school where they have a building named after his grandfather. Like, my God.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't want to go. I was like, I'm sorry. That's a Draco Malfoy thing. Go. Come on. You want a legacy. Come on. It's, I don't know. Like, I feel like we're really ripping apart childhood classics in season 2. Like,
well, no, I don't think so. And I also noticed something that it's fun to catch this kind of stuff when you're older because you're not going to as a kid.
Yeah.
But when it's actually that part with Alan and his parents, they do the notorious teacup shot where Alan is in focus and the background with his dad is in focus too, and you see the little like fuzziness in the center, and I was like, holy shit, look at they're doing Hitchcock over here. Like I was impressed by that, even though the CGI monkeys are questionable.
I love those
still,
monkeys.
like,
shut up.
Nikki, are
They're
you telling
so
me you think
scary. Oh my God.
Do you think they look good?
No.
Okay, good.
But when that monkey falls out of the refrigerator.
See, I like when the monkeys are on the motorcycle.
No, I like when they're in the monkeys in the police car and they shoot off.
Yeah. I do like that part.
It's just fun. It is fun. But it is, I need to know more about the town because I find it hard to believe that the entire town needed the shoe factory and they had nothing else to keep them going.
Wait, you wanna get down and dirty with the economy of this small American town?
Yes, because like I said, BB Newirth moves these 2 orphan children to a shanty town because there are mansions, there are beautiful houses. Then you go downtown and literally just like I was lied to about quicksand, I've never seen a group of homeless people huddled around a barrel that is on fire. But it is in every movie, including Jumanji. In the center of downtown. Hey, BB Newirth, maybe move your kids somewhere else. Because this doesn't seem like a really good place to have 2 kids grow up when they can literally walk themselves downtown to a shanty village. Like, I don't know.
Do you think some of the economic problems that they had could be sourced from the fact that it's parish shoes? Who could say that? Parish shoes?
Parish shoes.
Parish
Sound like
shoes.
Sean Connery.
I tried to just say parish shoes.
Parish shoes.
Parish shoes.
It is a stupid name.
Parish shoes.
Why don't they just say shoes by parish?
That's what I was just thinking. Shoes by parish, exactly.
It's so much easier.
There's sort of like a weird Bruce Wayne Gotham feel to. It's not like his parents that die when he's young, it's him, but they might as well have because you don't really see them in the movie after that. And he's like the golden boy from a rich family, disappears, comes back.
And he's going to right the wrongs. It is true. That is a weird... I didn't even notice that when watching it this time around. It is very Batman-esque. But I just keep going back to the fact that I don't think that there is a single town that would rely so heavily on shoes to be its main source of income for the entire town.
Right.
And also, when did the shoe place close down? Like, if his parents didn't die until 1991, and then we're supposed to believe this is 1995, you're telling me in 4 years the entire town turned upside down, everybody is homeless now?
Yeah.
Because the thing that is also weird about that idea is that when we get to the part where everybody is going crazy and looting all these stores because of everything going on, once again, it is people who are dressed really nice. It is not a single homeless person who is in Sir Saves-A-Lot, which is a great name for a store. Jesse looked at me and was like, oh man, if only that was a real place. I was like, I know. I don't...
And you know, like, all in the inside, it looks like fucking medieval times. They've got a bunch of bad puns everywhere.
Oh yeah, I loved it. But it also looks like
We treat you like royalty.
Yeah. It also looks...
King size savings.
It looks like a classic, like, old school Target inside.
Yeah.
And it was just like a flood of memories. Also, when they're in that aisle and there's like all those weird like K'NEX toys and stuff behind them. And it was just like, oh man, that's what I would have been looting in 1995.
You know what part just makes me so sad is when Peter's crying.
Oh, and he's whimpering.
Yeah, he's like.
But then you find out it's because his tail is bothering him.
That part's weird,
Yeah.
though. When he rips open his pants.
Yeah.
I don't like that
I
part.
don't like it
That part
either.
makes me feel uncomfortable.
I didn't like it either. It was weird.
I don't know. I can't peg the reason why I don't like it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, it's not like we don't see it happen. You know, there's no understanding to it. I think it's just the idea that a grown man can rip through jeans that bothers me, maybe.
From behind.
Yeah.
A little boy.
And it's the perfect circle for his tail.
Yeah.
I don't know what he learned in the jungle, but
Yeah, where did he learn how to do that?
I don't want to know.
You know how hard it is to rip jeans?
Yeah. Because you know what else bothered me too? It was like he has superhuman strength. And we learned that when he kicked in his childhood bedroom door, which we're going to have to go back to the house now for a minute. Who leaves a house with so much stuff in it? Who?
When the parish has perished, everything just kind of went into disrepair.
Like,
It's been 4 years.
yeah, in 4 years, they had lived in that house for years. They never touched his bedroom, and they locked it up. And in 4 years, like, no one broke into that house and took a look around. Well, apparently somebody did because there was a bunch of books on the ground.
Yeah, the troubled teenagers.
Yeah, like, that's the thing with this. It's so weird because you have the Allen's room that's never been touched, and it was locked because they couldn't get in. Then you have an attic that is filled with who knows what, that people could have been, you know, these homeless people could have been in there stealing this stuff and selling it and probably buying a house. Probably buying that house, apparently. It's cheap enough for a woman with 2 children to afford all on her own without a job because we don't know what she does.
Wait a minute. Why did that guy decide to move into the abandoned shoe factory instead of the parish's house?
Because he's stupid. I would have moved into the parish house. Oh, probably because it's haunted. Let's get real. Everyone thinks it's haunted by the ghost of Allen Parish.
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't choose to haunt a shoe factory.
Yeah, no. I don't, well, I mean, that all depends on the ghost. I'm not gonna, you know, afterlife shame a ghost. You do you.
You know, actually, the staircase in the parish house looks kind of like the staircase in Clueless.
It does. It really does. But they're definitely 2 different houses.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Before we get down that path, they're definitely 2 different houses. It's just you have a room that's never been touched that was locked. You have an attic that's full of junk, including Jumanji, which I find hard to believe that no other child ever heard those drums coming from that house.
Well, it calls to you. It chose them specifically.
Which is weird too. Like, what do you have to? What's the requirements to be called by Jumanji?
Maybe kids with some sadness. You've got a kid that's getting beat up, and then 2 orphans.
So you're telling me this mythical game only preys on the weak and vulnerable? What is this, a
Yes.
cult?
Right. Yeah. That's kind of fucked up, huh?
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, that kid's a burn victim. Better call to them.
Better call Jumanji.
Yeah.
It's problematic when you think about it in that respect.
Are we doing cancel Jumanji?
Hey, sad child, I've got something for you. It's like, no, stay away.
Jumanji, like, hears that it's not just 1 kid, but 2 kids with dead parents. Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
I mean, what is... If this is how Jumanji lets you play the game, what does that say about my family that bought the board game when it came out? And we all played it.
I want to know what your board game looked like because I would love to have a Jumanji game, but I want it to look like the one in the movie. I want it to be like wooden and cool.
No, it was not wood, and it was no. You can buy those. There are people who make those.
See, I want one of those.
Yeah, I've seen them on Etsy. You can buy those, but they don't do all the cool like magnetic. Well, actually, I bet you can find one that's magnetic, but I don't know how the words would show up on the screen in the center or anything. Ours was literally a cardboard fold-out game. Ours sounds more like the one from the book than what they have in the movie. It's just it was a regular like fold-out board game, but in the center, kind of like, you know how in the Game of Life, how it has that big plastic spinner in the center. In the center was this plastic disc with red like film stuff over it, and all the Jumanji cards had that weird print over them where you couldn't read the card until you slid it underneath of that thing. Yeah.
I played this game.
Yeah.
I played that.
Yes, I swear there's more people who have played this game than they think they did.
I just had like a flood of memories coming back. I definitely played that game. And I think I even remember it was my friend Margaret in elementary school. And I feel like it was over at her house and we had pizza and we were watching like Disney Channel or something.
It was it was honestly a fun game because it was the cards, some of the cards were just like they were in the movie, like like the one with the mosquitoes and stuff like that. Except, you know, I mean, in Florida, that came true. I mean, there were a lot of mosquitoes. But, I mean, there was never, like, a monsoon or anything like that. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on when you were playing the game.
They could have recreated Jumanji over the Tiger King place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about that.
I am. I am thinking about it. Holy crap. Yeah, the game was, I don't know, the game was fun. I wish we still had it. I wish my parents had kept,
Jumanji.
Yeah, because it was a fun, I actually really enjoyed it. That was like our thing was we would buy a new board game and play it as a family.
But did animals actually show up?
Christina, you mean you don't remember when there was that massive stampede of elephants in Port St. Lucie, Florida? That was my family.
That was you?
Yeah, my family. We wrecked it.
I love your work.
Thank you. Oh, wait, that's right. You wouldn't remember because we finished the game. We said Jumanji. So yeah. Whoops. Sorry.
Secrets don't make friends.
Friends make secrets. Secrets don't make friends. Yeah, I don't know. I think that was a cool marketing thing that they did, was to have an actual board game. But I do wish it was a little bit more like the movie, like a heavy duty thing. But I don't think that was something that they were really like wanting to spend the money on, because according to Roger Ebert, people like me weren't supposed to like that movie. I was supposed to be terrified. He even says, Roger Ebert's review even says that it's like Jaws for children. I was like, I think that's a little much.
I like that we had a lot of horror themed stuff in the 90s when we were growing up. I feel like there was just like a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I think about how now with a lot of Disney movies, they don't even like to have a really hard, vicious villain. Like, you think about the two Frozen movies, and there's not like a classic Disney villain in either, because they're almost like moving away from that.
Yeah.
And then you watch something like Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid's pretty dark. Sleeping Beauty's pretty dark. And Jumanji, there's some dark stuff that happens in the movie that I definitely appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that helped shape who you and I are. Like, I was thinking about it. We did this Spotify, we did that Spotify thing where we could blend together our two playlists. And basically we created the most gothic Disney princess. And she occasionally she's very angsty, but she loves Disney, and she likes to mellow out with some John Mayer. And I'm like, this is And the more I listen to that blend, the more I'm like, oh no, this is just a playlist for me. I'm like, this is just me on a daily basis. And I think a lot of that, comes from the fact that we had a lot of this stuff where the 90s, people weren't so afraid to talk about darker things. Like, darker subject matter was everywhere. And I mean, even, like, to your point about Disney, even looking up to, like, I think the last big dark villain was probably Dr. Facilier in Princess and the Frog.
Yeah, I was just thinking Princess and the Frog. It's probably the last one.
Honestly, that he is scary.
He is very scary.
I don't mess with voodoo. That is a legit thing. I will not.
I mean, who do?
Who do? What? Remind you of a man? Oh God, that could go on for a while. We're gonna nip that one in the bud now. I think, we also, as kids, we had like we had a lot of dark films. Like, when you really think about it, like, in addition to Jumanji, we also had like Page Master.
Yeah.
Which scared the bejesus out of me as a kid.
Page Master. We could do Page Master.
Is that a book?
I think so.
A book about books?
I think so.
I would do that. But yeah, it was, I don't know. Yeah, I appreciate the darker side to Jumanji. Especially as an adult. I'm sure as a kid I was probably like, when Alan gets sucked into the game board, actually that CGI still looks pretty good.
So Page Master is not a book, but it was also directed by Joe Johnston.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not.
That's it. That's the problem. He only did dark kid stuff, didn't he? Because Honey, I Shrunk the Kids used to scare me.
Yeah.
I was never more terrified of anything in my life than Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I thought they were all going to die.
That's where your anxiety started.
Basically, honestly, I need to talk to Joe. Hi, Joe. You owe me thousands of dollars in therapy because of your movies.
Well, it's like for my birthday weekend, I rewatched Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and we'll talk about some terrifying images.
Oh my goodness. See, these are unintentional fears that I had growing up. I was never gonna turn into a blueberry. What? I was never gonna fall. Well, actually, falling down a trash chute could actually happen. I'll give them that one, Willy Wonka. Oh my goodness. I do have another question about Jumanji that I need somebody to answer for me.
Well, I'm here.
That's why I went to the experts. Christina, question. So when you reach the center of the game and you shout out Jumanji, everything goes back. So we have Van Pelt, who goes to a gun store. Don't even get me started on the line, "Are you a postal worker?" And he gets a brand new gun. And then at the end of the game, when he gets sucked into the game, the gun goes with him. How is that possible? He didn't have it when he came out. He shouldn't be able to take it with him. That's a modern contraption. He shouldn't be allowed to have that in the jungle. Am I wrong?
Listen, maybe it's a loophole. Maybe if they are connected to something, then that goes with them. I don't know.
And if they didn't finish the game, do you think that Alan would have been sucked back in?
If they did not finish the game?
Yeah, like, do you think that would have been an option? Like, if he had rolled another 5?
Oh, yeah. If he had rolled something that sent him back, he would be stuck there again without them finishing it.
Yeah.
But if they just didn't finish it, he'd still be wandering around.
And so would the elephants and the monkeys.
I do like the twist at the end of the movie that instead of just winning the game, it takes the two of them back to the 60s when they actually played it. I think that that's a really cool twist.
Because everything that happened in the future happened because they started the game.
Right.
But see, this is where I don't like the movie. the part after. Like, yeah, they go back to the 60s, which is great. The two little kids kiss. He admits that he's the one who put the sneaker on the conveyor belt. You know, he mans up to his dad. And then we get like a flash forward where these two teens have remembered their whole lives, these two small orphan children. And then what? They con the dad into doing marketing for their shoe company?
Yeah.
Have you been stalking these people your entire lives? Like,
See, I like where it brings it to current times, and yes, they see the two little orphans before they're orphaned, and they try to thwart that from happening. But the thing that's funny about it is that yes, it's got this like thing that I feel like happened in the 80s and the 90s where it's just overwritten, it's overcomplicated. Like, I don't know why, yeah, tricking him into marketing, like, it's definitely a long con.
yes.
I don't know if we had to go through all of these steps to get here.
That means that they spent their entire teenage to, I guess, 30.
Coming up with that idea.
Yeah, figuring out how we could get this guy after him and his wife already gave birth to these two children. How do we get them to this town so we can make sure those kids are okay forever? Like, it's weird, right?
It's like they had an Ocean's 11 plan.
Yeah.
All right, so then you're going to go to college for business. Like,
It is so bizarre because the thing that gets me is that, you know, they go back in time, you know, and they're able to redo their childhoods because the game is over. Mm-hmm. And they spend all this time focusing on these two people. They don't know anything about them because they weren't, you know, it's the butterfly effect situation. Like, how do they know that by going back in time and, you know, spending all their time focusing on these two individuals, making sure that they get married and procreate, how do they know that it's going to have the same effect?
right.
They don't. It's a gamble, a very blind gamble, a long con with no real payoff.
Yeah.
And it's just like really, you guys have obsessed about this for so long. It's crazy.
And then think about the other major events that occurred between that game in the 60s and December 1994. Like, there's a lot of other very important things that they could have thwarted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sarah knew everything and could have said so much to so many people. Like, that's why she's a psychic. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Is she a psychic in the future though? Like, is she as an adult still a psychic? Oh my god.
Holy shit. That's why.
Jumanji. Oh my god.
Holy shit. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. That just changed so much.
Everything
So
is
much.
different. Everything is different now.
Oh my god.
I actually want to rewatch the movie now.
Yeah. Everything is different now with that. Oh my god.
Wow.
I have no words. I'm out. I'm tapping out. That was.
You know, the same though. Like, she doesn't decide to stop the Challenger from exploding.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because she's using it for her own gain as a psychic.
This is a Twilight Zone episode. This
No.
is going to blow up in their faces.
No, she's Biff. from Back to the Future. She knows who's going to win every sports game up to that point. She could bet on the Olympics, for Christ's sake. She knows everything.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. That's just...
It's done.
That was the long con. Oh my God. They tricked us. They tricked us into thinking the long con was getting these two people married so they could have kids. No. No, that's why they're able to keep that house. Mm-hmm. That's what keeps pair of shoes. That's what keeps Shoes by Parrish in business. That's why they can afford to gamble on sneakers. Because she knows what sneakers look like in the future. Ooh, I'm getting like fired up now. I need to. I'm mad.
I'm sorry. If you said pair of shoes, and it sounded like someone was asking for a pair of shoes.
Pair of shoes.
I need a pair of shoes.
Oh my God.
Wow.
But did you, to move away from this revelation, this has just wrecked me. Did you ever see, because I now know that there is also a book, which is also a picture book, so I'm going to, so I can safely say I've never read it, and I doubt you have. But did you ever see Zathura?
I did see Zathura when it came out, and I do not remember it.
That is one, for people who think that Jumanji is scary, in Zathura, the sister gets frozen, and they're worried she'll crack and break. And I'm 100% certain that the sister was played by Kristen Stewart. And
I think you're right. I think it is Kristen Stewart.
And I'm not gonna IMDb this. I'm 100% certain one of the kids was the one who played PETA in the Hunger Games movies.
I think you might be right again.
Oh, I'm getting a message from our peanut gallery. Josh Hutcherson.
Yeah.
And Kristen Stewart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's another kid. I don't know who that one was.
Jonah Bobo.
Alan Parrish? What?
Jonah Bobo is his name.
Wait, legit?
Legit, his name is Jonah Bobo. I'm not making this up.
Okay, now I have to IMDb. I think you're tricking me.
I'm not tricking you.
I don't trust you.
Although 100% I would go to a hotel and tell them my name is Jonah Bobo.
Oh my God, why would you do that? Oh my God, he was born in 1997. I feel so old.
Jonah Bobo.
I am so sorry. I legitimately thought you were lying to me.
I'm not.
I thought you were just making up a fake name. I was like,
not.
yeah, okay.
Stupid Christina.
Oh.
Stupid joke.
Oh. But
So, with Jumanji, how do you feel the movie stands up to the book?
I think I think this is a weird one to compare because the book and the movie are pretty much two different stories. But because they pulled so much from the book and put it into the movie, including like the names of the kids and stuff like that, I think it's an okay adaptation. It's definitely a darker adaptation than the book, but I think it kind of like, I would call them companion pieces. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think when you've got a story that is so simple as Jumanji, that adapting it into a movie is a lot simpler. Like, you look at something like Dracula and adapting that into a movie, and it's just, there's so many characters, so
Yeah.
much going on. It's a lot to cram into 2 hours. Whereas Jumanji, it's so simple. I mean, it's this most simple premise. So there's a lot of room to expand. And in a way, I think that the 1995 movie might have even overdone it to a certain extent. Like, you could
Yeah.
have made the movie a bit more simple. But I still think it's a good adaptation.
What do you think of the sequels that have come out since?
So I have only seen the first one. I think it's 2017, and
Yeah.
the second's like 2019. So I saw the first one, and I really liked it. I enjoyed it a lot. The second one I have not seen, but no reason not to.
I also liked the first of the two sequels. I think it's an interesting play on Jumanji. And I think The Rock's funny.
I think The Rock is very funny.
I think The Rock is hilarious. Don't even get me started on the Fast and the Furious movies with him in it. Oh my god. But no, I think it's really interesting to see how things can continue to evolve and change based off of such a small book.
Yeah.
I thought that was fun.
No, it's an imaginative plot for the picture book, and it's so simple within the book that there's so many places that you can go with it.
Yeah.
And like the idea of the video game, I think, is really smart for the new movies.
Yeah. And especially a video game that is basically like an old school Nintendo. And the kids are like, "Oh, this is so old." I'm like, blasphemy.
See, my favorite part of the new one though was Rhys Darby as the NPC.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
I love him.
And it's so funny too. He's so good. He's so funny. Mm-hmm. And that's like, like Robin Williams, I know we didn't talk a lot about him, but I just want to say once more, he's just so good.
Some of Robin Williams' humor in the movie feels a little bit weird, like when he is humming the Gilligan's Island theme in the shower. I'm like, that's kind of a weird joke. It's one that I expect my parents probably laughed at when we were in the theater in 1995. But now that I watch it, I'm like, that's not even really funny. It's kind of weird. And when I think about some of the other 90s Robin Williams movies like Mrs. Doubtfire, Hook, Aladdin, like Jumanji for me is actually near the bottom of that collection.
I wonder if that has a lot to do with the fact that when they were filming the movie, the reason they didn't, the author of the book didn't want Robin Williams to play the character because he knew that Robin Williams would improv a lot. And he wanted someone who would stick to the script. And I wonder if that's where it starts to feel a little different. Because I feel like in all the other Robin Williams movies that we've seen, they're just like, whatever, do your thing. Like he was the male, like Jennifer Coolidge is a female version of him where it's just like, okay, I understand what the script is. I'm going to say something different now. And they really kept him on like, from what I read, he had to film every scene as it was written. And then they would let him, like, riff in different scenes with just Bonnie Hunt.
Yeah, and it's like, when you hire someone, you hire them to do something. Unless both parties know that they want to try something different than what they normally do. So, you're hiring Robin Williams, peak Robin Williams. Let him be Robin Williams.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, you're not going to hire a sommelier to serve you just cheese. You want the guy to tell you about the wine, too.
Yeah.
And I think that's... Because I agree, there are a lot of parts where you knew he could have gone a little bit farther. And it's interesting when you see him playing against, like, David Alan Grier, who has these amazing facial expressions.
He's funny.
He is hilarious. The scene where the plant takes the cop car.
Yeah.
And you're just looking at his face, and it's just like, oh my God, this is so funny.
Yeah.
And then to know that Robin wasn't able to have
Yeah.
a little bit more leeway and a little bit more freedom, I'm like, that's not fair.
It's also just funny that the writer, and I don't know if we've even said his name, it's Chris Van Allsburg. The writer wanted the script to be stuck to so hard when the Robin Williams character is not in his book. It's
Yeah.
for sure something made for the movie, so it's weird to have like a kind of protection over a character that you did not write.
Yeah. I think there was something that was going around Instagram a little bit ago where there were some of Robin Williams just like riffing on things, and it is the funniest thing from the set of Jumanji. There's one where he's
Aw.
trapped in the floorboard. Your scary part. There's one where he's trapped in the floorboard with Bonnie Hunt, and he just goes, "Oh, you floor me," and I was like, done. Why was that not in the movie? I'll see if I can find it and send it to you. It's just so funny. He was just so bright, and he always understood the assignment.
Yeah.
There's never a bad thing about him. Like, even on his worst day, it's probably still better, comedically than anybody else.
We miss you, Robin.
Yeah. Well, now that we're already thoroughly depressed, I think it's time. It's time for the book list.
Yep.
And once again, the list is based off of, page to screen adaptation. Like, did it pull enough from the book to the movie? And will we watch the movie again, really? Or read the book again? So, yeah, so many factors. It's like math. It's hard. And we're not starting the list over for season 2. This is the full year 2021 book list. Which is now, just for 2021, this is only 18 books. That's not bad for 2021.
Yeah.
We're doing it. Okay, so the list goes: Rosemary's Baby, Wizard of Oz, High Fidelity, Emma, Hell House, Waiting to Exhale, Jaws, A Night to Remember, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Jumanji coming in 10th place, followed by The Birds, Forrest Gump, Born on the 4th of July, Valley of the Dolls, Mommy Dearest, Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats, Ready Player One, and Eat, Pray, Love.
That sounds correct.
Yeah, I hope
Stand
so.
by that list.
I was like, I hope it sounds correct. You were there when we made it. I think that Jumanji was a good fall segue.
I agree.
Because now we're going to get into real spooky stuff. I can't keep a straight face when I say it's going to be real spooky. Because this year for October, we are doing a head-to-head battle of the modern day vampire. I don't even think that you can compare the two, but this is going to be fun.
Yes.
So the first book we're doing in October in our battle of the modern day vampire is Twilight.
Correct. I say we also go ahead and say which one it's battling, the second one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's going to be followed by Interview with the Vampire.
Yes.
I'm so excited to do these two back to back because last year we did Dracula.
Yes.
Which, basically gives us the model on which every vampire must live.
Yes. Correct.
And I liked a lot of those rules from Dracula. I thought they were really smart.
Dracula is one of my favorite books of all time. Interview the Vampire it's got to be up in my top lists.
Yeah.
I love Interview the Vampire. Twilight, I have been a hater on Twilight, and I am going to say this right now. I am reading the book unironically and watching the film with open eyes.
Yeah.
This is real, guys. This is not funny. It's
Ugh.
real.
Yeah,
it's really happening.
We're not doing... I think that's a good thing to say. We're not doing Twilight because we want to make fun of Twilight.
I will.
Again,
It will probably
I'm
be
not
something
saying,
that happens.
Yeah, we are definitely going to make fun of it on the podcast, but we're not going into it with the idea that our goal is to get jokes.
Nope.
I think the goal is really to see, how the modern perception of a vampire is especially compared to what we knew from last year. Mm-hmm. And then how that morphs the public image of, what it means to be like a gothic vampire. Like Christina and I both worked at Hot Topic. We've seen some stuff.
We've both have been to New Orleans.
Yeah.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans. We've both gone to New Orleans. We know what's up.
Yeah. I think we're pretty good. I wouldn't say we're vampire experts. But I think we have an understanding of vampires. That even sounded weird. Like, Christina and I don't shy away from those sort of, like, that sort of subject matter. Even though a lot of it is comical. I'm just interested to see where this takes us. I mean, it's going to be hard for me to watch Twilight and not think about all of Robert Pattinson's interviews.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
'Cause those are very funny. And, I mean, you and I watch What We Do in the Shadows, and the third season is currently playing, and they just made fun of Twilight in the last episode. So, of course there's that. But when I sat down to start to read Twilight, I looked at the first page and thought to myself, this is something that's happening in my life right now. I am taking it seriously.
Yeah. My wish for this is that the book does not have a cliffhanger. Because I am a person who, I'm a completist. And if there is a cliffhanger, I am in danger of reading the entire series.
I thought that you read Twilight before.
No. I know that I seem like the type of person who would definitely fall into that demographic.
For some reason, I thought you did in, like, late high school. Like...
Were these even out when we were in high school?
Weren't they out when we were in... Or maybe it was my senior year.
I don't know if these were out when I was in high school. I'm old. What's the... Now I have to find the publishing date for these books. Because isn't this...
2005. 2005.
2005. Oh, I was in high school then. No. No. I was still...
So this is a first for both of us.
Girl, I was on that Harry Potter train.
Oh, I know you're into Harry Potter.
I was young and naive.
Wait, so you have never read Twilight?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so that's a first for both of us. And then have you watched the movie?
I have seen the first one.
Okay.
But I don't think I've ever seen it not on TV.
Right.
Like, I don't, like, and not on, like, HBO. Like, I mean, like, I've seen it on, like, not TBS, like, FX, I think, had it for a while. And I remember seeing it on TV, but never actually seeing the movies. And I know that it has a really big fan following. It's
Of course.
It's still a thing.
Right.
So, sorry. I'm just excited to see where this takes us, and especially how those two books will compare to each other, being set so far apart.
Right.
And what the idea of a modern vampire is. Oh, we're going to have so much fun this fall.
I know. I love vampires. Vampires are my favorite monster. They are awesome. So I am excited to experience something for the first time, and then revisit an old friend.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be so good.
Yes.
Season 2, we're getting into it, and we're going in hard, and I am so excited. I'm so ready. Whoop whoop.
Woohoo!
Let's get spooky. So until next time, thanks again to Jesse for not just
Yes,
editing
thank you,
this episode.
Jesse.
He gave us that tidbit about quicksand.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah, my our editor and quicksand expert, Jesse. Thank you.
Hey, Christina, do you know much about quicksand? I got a guy.
Hey, do you think this is quicksand? Hold on, let me call someone.
Is phone a friend an option?
Yeah. As you're floating on the quicksand. Let me call someone just to double check. And thanks to you, Christina, as always.
Aw, thank you, Nikki.
And it's gonna be a hell of a ride. Boop, boop, boop. I'm ready. And thanks to everyone who's listening. Thank you guys for still being here and joining us as we start season 2. But one of us just rolled a 5 or 8, so we gotta go.
We gotta go.
Whoosh. Oh no, my fingers! Oh, okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.